Hello, everybody. I'm Proud, and I want to go over the future of world generation in Hytale with you. And this is something you're definitely going to want to watch because Hytale's generation version 2, world generation version 2 that they're bringing into the game is actually revolutionary to the blocky game genre. And I'm not just saying this because Simon has said it, because he did. But after actually going through and reading all of this with stream yesterday, going over it in detail and having a little bit of conversation on stream with Slikey, the technical director of Hytale yesterday, to add some more context to what I'm about to go over with you, it has gotten me even more excited for the game than I already was. And I was already pretty excited about the game. And some of the stuff they're doing here is absolutely, like I said, revolutionary for this genre of game, both from the perspective of you playing the base vanilla game of Hytale, but also for what modders are going to be able to do with terrain generation in a Hytale and what that's going to mean for you as the player of the game. So whether you're a modder or a player, this is going to absolutely blow your mind, okay? Now a message from today's video sponsor, Unified Hytale. They are a mod platform for Hytale where players can download mods for single player and the ability to install mods with a single click to server host, bisect hosting, and Shockbyte is in the works. If you make mods and are looking for a place to host them, or are just playing Hytale and looking for mods for your world when early access launches on January 13th, go to unifiedhytale.com. Their website and Discord link can be found in the description below. Let's just briefly talk about World Generation version 1 versus World Generation version 2. Why are there two versions, and like what's the deal? What's going on here? So World Generation version 1 is what we're on right now, and it's actually an unfinished world generator. The Hytale team got to a certain point while they were creating this world generation. The Hytale team got to a certain point while using the version 1 of world generation to where they couldn't really do what they wanted to do with it anymore. They were trying to do new things and new zones, and it just wasn't accomplishing the tasks that they wanted. So they abandoned largely moving forward with version 1 and started creating version 2, which is what we'll be going over here today. Now, as Slikey said during my stream yesterday, version 1 is actually still not even done right now. What they did was they patched it together and got it good enough to do early access of the game, which comes out on January 13th. Make sure you get your copy of Hytale and use code PROW8413 at checkout. It does get me some credit and helps support the channel, so I do appreciate that if you can do that. But as Slikey said, version 1 is incomplete right now. It's going to have some bugs in it. You're going to have stuff in it that just doesn't look right. It's going to not have features that they wanted it to have, but they were able to get it cobbled together quicker and better than they could just rush version 2 together to get it functional in some way. Although it is functional some way in the game right now. We'll go over that here in a second too. So version 1 exists now, and that's going to be what you see when you load up Hytale for the first time, is you're going to see the version 1 of terrain generation there. Now, this is going to be important to note is we don't know for sure exactly what's going to happen when we switch fully over from version 1 to version 2. It's kind of alluded to, and I'm not going to read this whole article in depth. I'm just going to kind of like give you the important information from it. It's been alluded to inside of this article that whenever they switch over to version 2, your version 1 worlds will no longer generate new terrain. So what's likely to happen at this time, and Slikey informed us during the stream as well, that he's going to come out with like a full like post. I don't know if it'll be a blog post, maybe it'll be something on their Twitter. I'll cover it for you guys either way when it comes out. But at some point, your version 1 generation is going to stop working. The worlds that you make initially inside of Hytale will no longer generate new terrain because the version 1 engine of world gen will be gone. And the version 2 is not going to be able to just slide into your old existing world and start working. Now, is it possible they have some way for you to like transfer or upgrade or whatever your version 1 world to a version 2 world? I guess technically it's possible, but probably not on their high on their priority list. This is just going to be one of those things that is a product of playing an early access game. So I want you guys to understand that when you go to start your first world and you're playing through, it's very likely that you will eventually reach a day where either that new world, that old world won't work anymore, or more likely that it'll still work, but it'll stop getting new features, or at the very least, stop getting new world generation. So keep that in mind. Now, I mentioned how version 2 will actually already be in your worlds from the start. Let me show you really quick exactly what I mean by that. There's this part at the end of the first video that was released when Hytale got saved that we saw, where this portal was created, and it was just vaguely shown. It had no context to it. We didn't really understand what it was. And we now know what that portal was. This portal actually leads to world generation version 2 terrain. This is going to be the Hytale's team way of introducing version 2 terrain in a way that players can largely test it and see some of its features and find bugs and give feedback on it without them fully implementing it yet, and implementing portions of it that they already have. So what you'll have when you start playing Hytale from day one is you'll be able to find these, I think it's called an ancient gateway, and you'll be able to get teleported to like an instanced area where it's using the version 2 world generation engine to generate this area. And seemingly, as we go through the coming months and year, or however long it takes, they will add more of these or different generation in them, or update them, etc., to give us more glimpses of what version 2 generation is going to look like, and get to actually play with it in game, try it out, etc. So that's how it's going to be incorporated in your game for now. Later on, they will fully implement it with the full adventure mode of Hytale. So you'll have the full generation with adventure mode in the game and ready to go. We don't know how long it's going to be. Is it going to be 1 year, 2 years? That's kind of unsure at this time. So we will be on world generation version 1 for probably a little while, but just know that anytime you find and go through one of these guys, you're seeing world generation version 2 terrain. Now, throughout this time of talking about world generation version 2, I'm going to show you several videos with examples, and I'm going to kind of summarize what all of these things are that you're seeing and what it can do. And then I do have a full breakdown in my reaction to the world generation video, where we go through, we watch the whole thing once, and then we go back through and like break it down more in depth and look at each individual thing. It's a little bit longer of a video, so I might post them as 2 separate videos, or I may post them together as one. I'm not really sure. I'll take a look at that here in just a little bit. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you all these videos and all these pictures, and just give you some basic information of what it is you're looking at, so you can better understand why world generation version 2 is revolutionary for you as the player playing in the game, and for people that are modding the game via these node systems that they have in, which are really cool. And then we're going to end up this video talking about a little bit about the future of Hytale going forward, and a note from Simon that he put in here. And I may even do a separate video just on this as well, because of how important this one paragraph or a couple paragraphs of text is. I also went through and downloaded the full resolution videos and screenshots that are posted here. Anybody can download them. They're on the bottom of the page. But that way, when you guys watch this, you can get it a little bit better picture quality. And I'm going to go through and play these for you, so you can kind of see them. This one right here is an explorer ventures into the new world of Orbis. So basically what this video is right here is, it's just a introduction to what world generation version 2 can look like. Without all the context of everything that I want to go over with you guys, it looks good, but you may not understand everything that's going on here. But you will see how big and detailed the mountains look, and how the generation is very unique already compared to maybe other blocky games that you've played. I may use Minecraft as a context when I talk about things, because it's the game that I've played the most and I'm used to. So you may hear me use it as an example a few times to differentiate like what you're seeing compared to maybe a little bit more what's normal. You can see a little owl flying around here. You can see all these ridges and noise and detail in the sides of the mountains, which look really, really cool. And the trees dotted up along the side, a little cave entrance right here, a river going down, and a lot of different things that are sitting inside of this river. A lot of these things are actually going to be important points that we go over with the world generation version 2 here. Now, this next video that we're going to take a look at talks about intentional design. So ways in which they actually have added specific features that they want the world generation to be able to insert into the game without them just cookie cutter inserting it in and having it just become part of normal terrain generation, procedural terrain generation that can form randomly based on what the world is doing at that particular place in time. This one right here is going to be a flyover showing an erosion effect at the transition between the river and the forest biomes. So here we go. It's kind of a fast pan. I do have it on repeat though, so it'll play a few times. But what you can see here is an eroded river that goes between these two like higher elevated portions of terrain that I believe it said is dividing two different biomes between each other. So what they've tried to do here is not just give you a river between a cliff, but they try to give you a river that looks like it's eroded the land around it. So I've seen these in Minecraft plenty of times, right? Where you have a river down between like two highly elevated plateaus of land. But they try to do this a little bit more intentionally. It's not just a river that just happened to cut through a mountain area, but instead what it is a river that has cut through a mountain area over the course of thousands of years, where just like in real life, your river slowly erodes the land around it and wears it down. That is what has happened here, where this river has eroded its way all the way down through here. And that's why you actually have this curvature to the land in the way that it is, and possibly even why they've selected some of the blocks that may exist here, because I don't know for sure because we can't see them. We don't know what the blocks are, but some of them may be blocks that you normally find down in the riverbed that have been left over from the hundreds or thousands of years of this river eroding its way down. And you can also see in this picture how you have a lot of trees growing close to the river. That's because the trees are being provided water by the river. So they are a byproduct of that river being there. We'll go over that part of intentional design a little bit later as well. Next, we can see here what's going to be called an ash tree. Now, these ash trees generate above the caves. So one interesting thing about how this works is that wherever there's a cave in this particular biome or region of the game in zone 1, is the game recognizes that, and what it does is it puts one of these ash trees there, and these ash trees will signify that there is a cave down below where you might find a deep cave that's going to have nice things for you to get, right? Some really cool ore, valuable ores, or other things that you're going to be interested in finding in the game. And part of the way it does this too is you see this tree is actually two parts. There's the top part right here, and then it actually continues down and roots down into the roof of the cave area here. So wherever you see these ash trees, you can know that there's probably going to be a cave underneath it, because when the terrain was generating, it sees that there's a cave there, and then it decides to insert an ash tree above there with the roots hanging down in to be a signal to the player that they should look beneath this tree to try to find what's below, because it's going to be something that they're going to be interested in. Now we're going to get into some things that are a little bit more and even more intentional design. And I couldn't figure out the right word for this, so I've just been calling it a cause and effect. Basically, there's something that's happening in the game, and because that thing is happening, an effect is generated from it. It's almost like a decision tree that is occurring within the game. Right here, we say we have a log bridge spawns across a river by searching for two shores. So in this particular image here, which I love, by the way, look at the reflections of the water. This is a really nice image. You have this log bridge right here. Now, this log bridge is not just randomly generated completely. The game can see and detect that the shorelines of this river right here are close enough together to where it makes sense for the game to generate a log bridge going across as a natural point for the player to go across the river and to get across it, to give that sort of real life immersion, rather than you just seeing a river and thinking, I want to get to the other side. I'm gonna hop in the water and just swim across, which you of course can still do. But this gives you a more immersive way of interacting with your world and for the world to generate. Now, again, this log generated because the game recognizes that there's a shoreline here and a shoreline here, and they're close enough together for that log to be able to connect. So the log was not always going to be there, but it decided to put itself there because these two things were true. This is the cause and this is the effect. This one right here is probably going to be one of the best examples of this out of the whole blog post. So you have these, I think they're cedar trees is what these ones are called in the game. And you have these sticks around and these mushrooms below. And in a game like Minecraft, again, I'm just going to use it as an example because it's what I'm used to and I understand a little bit how it works as well. In a game like Minecraft, when you have a biome generate, there's just properties that exist to that biome. My best example that I can give for Minecraft is the like birch forest biomes now, where you have the leaf litter all over the ground, or just regular forest biomes. You have the ones that have the leaf litter all over the ground everywhere. So those leaves are just how the biome generates. The biome generates, it puts leaves on the ground everywhere within the biome area, and then the trees also generate there in the biome area. They're not actually tied together. It gives the illusion that they are, like, hey, these leaves are here because the trees are here and the leaves fell from the trees and that's how they got there. But that's not how the game actually does it. So you may see areas where there's leaves and no trees, or trees and no leaves, because they're not actually directly tied to each other. All it is one broad brush painting. Now, the way that Hytale works is these things are actually connected together. So without personally knowing what order things go into, I can only assume what that order is at this time. But I assume your land features are painted in first. And then what happens is the game inserts trees down. In this case, maybe it's inserting these trees down because this river's here, and it puts trees more densely around the river. At least that's what screenshots I've seen have looked like. And then because the trees are here, the game then generates these sticks and these mushrooms under the trees. These would not be here if these trees were not here. If you were to, say, take this tree out, like say this tree didn't generate, that mushroom would no longer be there, because the mushroom's not a property of the biome. The mushroom and the sticks are a property of the trees themselves. So the game places the trees in, and then because the tree is there, the trees place the sticks and the mushrooms in. So all of these things get interconnected together in this web of decisions that I'm going to show you here in a little bit. But this is really cool and interesting because it allows you to give purpose to how the world generates. This will also be something that you're going to see modders use quite a bit. We'll go over that a little bit later as well. I'm going to pull up the full one of this one. This is just another example. These red glowing mushrooms, they can appear in caves where the ground that they're generating on is deep enough into the cave, or there's not sunlight, or I can't remember the exact property for this. I don't know if they told us the exact property. Glowing mushrooms that only appear in sheltered areas. So basically the game detects that it's a sheltered area. That could be a combination of light level or the type of block that's above it. But these aren't just inherent to caves, they're inherent to sheltered areas in caves. So they will appear as such. This is another good one. And honestly, this is another one of my favorite ones. Really great example. So first, let me read a text here. A meadow of flowers spawns in a dip surrounded by small trees and boulders. So this is how Hytale is going to be able to introduce very unique land features that you can't really get in other games that don't use this sophisticated of a world generation engine. Because what happened was the world generated itself first. Okay, so this dip, the dip without anything you see in it, just the dip itself is just a feature of normal terrain generation in this particular biome. It could just happen randomly depending on your world seed and the world just generating. Now, when one of these dips occurs, the game sees the dip here, and there's going to be some chance that this dip gets this, what do they call it? A meadow of flowers, a meadow that generates inside of the dip. So this meadow is procedurally generated, and it's generated only due to the fact that there's a dip here. So the dip was there first, and then the game decided, hey, there's a dip here. Do I or do I not want to generate a meadow in it? And then this meadow is procedurally generated. This will not look the same in every world. It will have the same components, but it'll be procedurally generated differently in every world where one of these generates, or in every area of your world where this happens to generate. So again, it's a cause and effect type thing. Because the world generator generates a specific land feature, the game then has things that it can put inside of those features, and then potentially other things can generate around those things because they are there. It's a layered approach to terrain generation that's really quite intricate and really nice. Now, the next thing I want to show you here is a little bit about how this works with this video, okay? And let me find it. Here we go. I'm going to pause and just talk very briefly about a couple parts of this. Unless you are a programmer or world, like you already are interested in modding and world gen, this may or may not mean a whole lot to you. But for anybody that's looking to potentially get into learning world generation, or maybe you've thought about it before, but you've thought that doing this type of stuff is really too hard for you and beyond your skill level because you're not a programmer, it's actually a lot better than you think. So I'm going to let this video play through once while we talk about it, and I may pause it during one or two spots the second time through. So right now, what they're doing is they're messing with a group of nodes that exist inside of this node graph. And all nodes are basically like a decision tree. And excuse me if you're a programmer, you know more about these. I'm not using technical language here because I'm not a programmer. I've never messed with these myself before. So my knowledge on them is more of what I see rather than hands-on experience. But you have these decision trees of nodes. I'm sorry, I said I wasn't going to pause, but here I am pausing. You have these decision trees of nodes that interconnect with each other. And you can imagine how it works, where something happens here with this guy right there. And then because this thing happens, these things happen. And because this thing happens, these things happen, or these are properties of this thing. Right? So it keeps working its way down the tree to the end. Now, the interesting thing that you're seeing happening right now on the screen is what this person is doing with these different nodes is they're changing properties of how the terrain generates. But they're able to actually see this occur in real time, which is something that is not possible or not something that occurs in other blocky style games. Again, I've never messed with terrain generation myself in a game like Minecraft, but I've talked to people who have, and the way that they talk about this is something that a game like Minecraft is not capable of doing and doesn't do. And terrain generation is so hard to mess with or cumbersome to mess with in a game like Minecraft that most people don't really bother doing it. So what you end up having is a couple of really popular terrain generation mods that exist inside of Minecraft. And then a lot of the like popular mods and mod packs in Minecraft will use one of those already pre-existing ones that somebody that's very knowledgeable in this type of thing has already created and made. In a game like Hytale, since everything's built into the game, you're able to tinker with it yourself. So if you've never modded anything before in your whole life, but you're good at messing around with things and tinkering around with things, you may be able to do that inside of Hytale and learn this system hands-on by yourself, because you can change a value and save it and then see what that value does. And you can keep tinkering until you figure it out, which is really quite nice. And then people that have programming knowledge or experience with this will obviously be able to do maybe a little bit more with it or pick it up a little bit faster. And ultimately what this is going to lead to is there's a potential for every decent like sized mod in the game where somebody wants to mess with terrain generation for some reason, they're going to be able to easily do that. Meaning that most mods, or a lot of mods that you see, will actually have their own custom terrain generation features to them that supplement or go along with that mod. It means you're going to get mods that are more specially catered to the things that they're trying to do because they're able to do these things. And you're seeing all this happen right now where they keep changing values and they're going through and shaping this terrain. They can do things like block height. They can do how the edges of things taper off. They can choose material depths and material types and all sorts of different things like you're seeing here. And another thing that I'll bring up as part of this, I think they talked about it somewhere in the World Gen blog post. I don't remember the exact part where it happened. Here, you're going to see them set. I'm looking for the spot. Okay, so they're smoothing it out more. And then here, I'm going to skip ahead a little bit. And you can see right here where they're going to set grass as soil underscore grass as a single layer on top as like their last part of showing off the terrain generation here. And here they go. They started here with base terrain generation, and they ended up here with just generating some unique features, and it does it on just a portion of the world. Now, one thing I was about to say, and I don't remember if they showed that, if they talked about this in this part of the blog post or not, but they talked about it somewhere, was how these terrains or biomes can like connect to each other. This is another like really interesting feature of how the terrain generation works. Is the game is capable of very intricate biome blending. So again, I think about a game like Minecraft where you kind of have like biome border, and they more or less hard clash against each other. Maybe there's like a very, very small amount of blending, but there's not really much of anything. In Hytale, the biomes actually really blend together really well. So I think what the game does is it samples the two biomes next to each other, and it starts to kind of like fade them into each other in a way to where there's a seamless blend between the two. And not only does the base game do that for the biomes that are just part of the vanilla game, but if a modder is creating their own biome and they insert it into the game, it's already an algorithm that's built into the game. So you can create your own custom biome, and it will by default blend into biomes around it, again, in that like nice smooth manner. And then modders actually have the ability to go in and define the properties of the blending as well. So if they want harsher blending or softer blending or certain features to exist within the blending of the biomes, I think even they should be able to do all of those different things. But there is already a default blending built in to where these biomes will transition from one to the other in a way that looks and feels very natural, and it doesn't have a harsh look to it. Here's another video showcasing the node editor as well, where they're editing this cliff face right here, which just at its base looks like a pretty plain cliff face. Doesn't look bad by any means or anything like that, but you can see here by just changing some properties, they were able to add what I would just, I guess, best describe as noise. I'm sure there's a technical term for it that I don't know, but you can see how the whole generation changed because of it. We went from this right here with some trees dotted around, and we're able to live change a couple settings and update it and see what our result looks like, which is something that has a lot more detail and looks a lot more interesting. So just showing kind of what it can do. And this is one of the things that's really big about what WorldGen V2 is it's not only a generation engine for somebody to sitting and just playing the game, but it's a real creative tool that will allow a wide variety of people to get into messing around with terrain generation and creating some really cool stuff, which we'll actually see examples of here in just a little bit. Here's another example. Is it this one? Yeah. This is just them setting some properties to how the terrain generation is going to work specifically. And let me see if I can find out where it is. So, this one's the density. So what they're doing is they're turning up density of the forest. You can't see it really good here based because of YouTube compression, but they have options here for small trees and large trees. And what they're able to do is change the density or ratio that those trees appear in a particular area. And that's what's happening here as it generates in more trees. So that's really neat. And I think there's one more. Yeah, it's right here. What they're doing with this one and the way that they're changing the nodes is they're actually adding in some like smart detection to the way the terrain generates. So what he's going to be doing is telling the game that if there is 10 or less blocks of airspace above these grass blocks, that they actually shouldn't generate as grass. They should generate as dirt. So he's going in and changing that. So then the game is doing a check and seeing, oh, okay, well, there is 10 spaces of air above these blocks. Therefore, we are going to change those blocks to dirt instead, or something like that. I think is what the example said. This looks like it's more than 10 blocks. So maybe this example, they use a different figure over here, but essentially that's what you're seeing happening. Is it's going from grass to dirt because they're able to like put these different rule sets in that dictate how the terrain generates. Modders have extremely specific controls to add in almost any sort of rule sets that they want. And I'm pretty sure the result long term is if you are an experienced programmer and you know how to write and insert your own code, that you can eventually create your own nodes that do even more like intricate things than what the game already has built into it. So these next pictures are just going to be some examples of wild terrain generation. These are not pictures of things that are going to exist in the game, vanilla game. It's just a showcase of what the game is actually capable of doing. Let me get some higher res pictures pulled up. So here's one with some layered like island like terrain where you have just terrain layered over top of terrain over top of terrain. So they're just showing, I guess, how that can be something that occurs. It looks really cool. You have these kind of wild sky islands right here. These really wild sky islands here. I think this almost, I don't know if this is one or if that's just like out of the render distance, but here's some like really wild sky islands with this oversized like giant flying whale. This is not a thing in the actual game, but it is a meme within the community that's pretty funny. So you got that guy right there. This is one of the cooler ones, I think. Oh no, hold on, we'll get to that in a second. This one is really cool though. So you see this guy under the water, so they can obviously apply this sort of terrain generation underwater as well. You could create some really intricate underwater biomes that have different layers of different things to it. So that's really neat. This one right here was probably my favorite of all of them, the arched jungles. So they were able to create these sort of these arches with jungles on top of them and below them. With the terrain generation, you see some pterodactyls flying around here. I think these guys might be part of the base game inside of the Zone 4 caves, which is going to be really cool. Here's another like more traditional looking sky island one right here that you can see where you have the little sky islands floating around. So a lot of really cool things. And you could do some really wild stuff with it too, like create your own custom biomes as well. We have this video that shows a quote unquote alien planet. Or it's generated set of rings in an alien world is what the caption says. So if I pull this up and watch it, this is what this looks like. This definitely looks like it's outside of the normal world of Orbis. So essentially the possibilities of what the generator can do are actually quite wide, to the point where you can make your own worlds, your own dimensions. You can make stuff that looks and feels otherworldly inside of the game. So that was really neat right there. And then next we have some screenshots that are actually just coming from the game. These are biomes that exist somewhere in the game. We don't have a lot of context for some of them. They look like really cool and interesting, and we don't know exactly what they are. Here's a plains biomes in the Emerald Wilds, which is Zone 1. And you have some mountains kind of dotted around here in the background. Here you have what did it say? A taiga river focused river biomes in the Whisperfrost frontiers. And you have what looks like some like charred trees or maybe struck by lightning or something like that. The river going around. You see examples of some things generating inside of the river that add some interest to it. And I don't know if this probably just happens in very specific areas that it knows to generate these sort of rocky terrains like that. So that's really neat. This right here is a shot of a few different biomes. I think 3 separate biomes kind of converging together. You got one distinct biome over here, one over here, and one right here in the forefront. Got some skeletons right there. So just kind of showing how those come and blend together to look like one rather than having some sort of a hard border. This is one of the ones I tried really hard to get some information from Slikey about this. He wouldn't give it to us. It's titled blog_Hedera. So this is obviously some type of biome inside of the game, but we don't really know where it is. This is a giant tree trunk. So it's thought that this maybe could be in the devastated lands, which is Zone 4, or it could be a transition from Zone 3 to Zone 4 or something like that. But this is actually all water, like swampland almost all through here. And then this is just a giant rotten tree trunk that is left over. And you see all these little structures dotted around. This is really cool. One of my favorite screenshots out of everything here. But my favorite one is coming up here in just a moment. You have these like really interesting looking stones that are cropping up right here. Again, this is terrain generation that is occurring. These are a feature of terrain generation, I believe, that is happening in a specific area of this particular biome. And here is my overall favorite one. This is an oasis that can generate inside of a desert area. So if it works like everything else in the game has worked so far, this like lower shelf area is just a feature that has occurred inside of the game. And because this feature was here, it allows for this oasis to appear. Or it could be intentional design as well, where they have designed this to be a feature that appears, and you see how it kind of sits down inside of the desert, meaning that this area is capable of holding water when there is water better than the rest of the desert area. Therefore, it is lush and green inside. And I've not seen terrain inside of a desert that has ever made me want to build before until now. This looks really cool. You have some little like huts here that likely belong to the Farons, which are a faction in the game. And I believe this guy right here is a player that is just standing there looking down. But yes, this is a desert oasis. Really cool area. I can't wait to play inside of that. You have another desert shot right here where, because this river has generated in the desert, these yellow trees are then a byproduct of that. These yellow trees only generate beside these rivers in the desert. They don't generate anywhere else. So if you're looking for those, that's how you find them. Also, you have the Koopa Shell camels, which are absolutely hilarious. I love these guys. And then finally, the important note from Simon. I'm going to read an important part here for you guys that I think kind of sums up the future of Hytale and what this generation can come to. Actually, I'm going to read 2 of the paragraphs. With that in mind, I'm pleased to announce that we're planning to expand the Hytale team with a job role that, for the most part, has not existed in block-based games before: world designer. So they're adding world designers as a job in the game. He continues to say that they're going to be hiring more than 15 world designers, and that these roles will be primarily filled from the community. So what they plan on doing is seeing what a lot of people inside of the community create in terms of modders and concept artists and like these sorts of things, like actual community members that are playing the game and posting this sort of stuff for the game and have a passion for the game. Those people are going to be encouraged to apply for this world designer position, and they're going to hire all of them that they think are going to be fit for the job. These will be fully paid people. These Simon answered a question for this on Twitter somewhere where people were like, yeah, but I've seen community members taken advantage of. Like, are you guys going to actually pay these guys? These are positions that are going to pay $80,000 to $100,000. Words directly from Simon. That's what these positions will pay. So these are true developer positions, and they're going to hire at least 15 people within these roles over time. I imagine sooner rather than later, as soon as qualified candidates become available. So if you're going to be getting heavy into world design, you may be able to apply for this position. And you may wonder, well, what is a world designer going to be doing? This paragraph right here basically says it all. We are intentionally expansive, just as we envisioned years ago. Beyond Orbis, we plan to, and Orbis is the main world. If you're not familiar with Hytale, that's the world you spawn in right now. That's everything we've looked at so far has been Orbis. We plan to explore alternate worlds, new dimensions, and entirely different spaces. These worlds give us room to introduce new blocks, items, prefabs, which are structures, zones, regions, biomes, NPCs, quests, stories, and gameplay systems. So essentially, these world designers will be in charge of doing some stuff that existed in this old concept art of Hytale from a long time ago. There is a vision that Orbis is not the only planet that exists in this Hytale universe, but there's other planets that exist in it as well. Nexus, Karpak, Torbalin, and Numdrassil, maybe some other ones, and maybe even dimensions that we have not seen concept art on or has not really been thought about before. World designers are going to continue Hytale forward in this way. Essentially, Hytale is trying to future-proof itself from feature creep over the course of 5, 10, 15, 20 years, where if you just keep adding stuff to Orbis, it eventually can feel like there's too much going on in Orbis. You're adding another zone, you're adding another biome, you're adding another mob. You just add too much, and it takes away from the overall cohesion and theme of the way Orbis is supposed to be. So instead, these designers may add new stuff to Orbis, but If they want something that looks really wild like Torballen, they could create Torballen as a brand new world, and this Torballen world have its own zones and biomes and regions and NPCs and items and gameplay systems. It can have all these different things. So Hytale seems like it wants to be an infinitely expansive game over time, and their method of doing that is really smart, because if they introduce different worlds within the Hytale universe, they don't handicap themselves in any way. They can literally go any way they want to within the game. They could even go outside of the genre if they want to as well. It's kind of the ball's in their court in terms of what they want to do. And I would say the ball is also in your court in terms of what you want to do, because this looks awesome to me. I'm even more excited after learning all of this myself, and I hope you are now more excited after learning all of this too. I may do some deep dives into some of these screenshots and stuff with you guys later. This is already a deep dive. This is supposed to be a recap, and we're 45 minutes in. I can't stop talking. That's just how it is. If you guys enjoy this type of content, please do me a favor, leave a like on the video. It helps the video get found by more people. Maybe share it around too with people that you think may be interested in Hytale. Maybe they're interested in another game that's similar, you know, Terraria, whatever, and you want to introduce them to Hytale and some of the cool things about it. Share this video with them so they kind of see what the hype is about and what's so different about the game. Subscribe to the channel if you're not already. Most people that watch the videos aren't subscribed, so that helps. And make sure you use code PROW8413 to purchase the game or anything in game, because it does help support the channel. Thanks a lot, guys. I appreciate you, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.